Hello, welcome to our worship facility webinar, Stage Safety 101, featuring Bill Di Paolo. Bill Di Paolo has been a production professional for over 30 years, and he's also an expert in the area of stage safety, an area often overlooked in worship facility production. Bill, why don't you get us started?
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Di Paolo. I'm a technical director and designer and have been working in the entertainment business for over 30 years. I want to talk about stage safety, in which we will cover electrical, rigging, staging, and special effects. There's a lot that goes on to ensure that we have a safe performance area, regardless of the venue, application, of type of the stage or riser you have. The guidelines for making sure it's safe remain the same. So now, just not mostly in arenas, in theaters, and public buildings, the safety is much more in the forefront. Big arenas that are happening, bigger shows, but sometimes more of the injuries occur more in the smaller scale of things. Community theaters, churches, houses of worship, anything like that. Because a lot of times it's based on volunteers helping each other out. They're not really sure of the safety. They're not meaning to do anything wrong. They just don't have the know-how sometimes, or the knowledge, because they're not doing it on a daily basis. They're not, involved with that. So we really hope that this type of thing, really spreads more into that community as well. Always look into these seminars and webinars, and we will try to advance you in all of this. Every single part of the space can play a part in optimizing safety. So it's important that nothing gets overlooked. Regardless of if you're in a church, a school, a theater, a community center, or a production company, we will outline the 4 areas you need to be looking at to make sure your events are as safe as possible. Let's talk about the stage floor. First off, the stage floor is the most important thing to look at. It also has the most areas that need inspection. The floor should be cleaned before each performance and use, and it should be in good structural condition. A permanent wooden stage may have boards that have been replaced. A concrete stage may have cracks that need to be filled. And a carpeted stage may have torn or frayed carpet that needs to be replaced. Doing these things will help prevent trip hazards. If there's a stage extension or pit filler, as seen here, it needs to be in good structural condition as well. It shouldn't be homemade, as a manufacturer designed extension will be much, much safer and highly recommended. When it comes to the surface that someone is going to be standing on, all staging should be designed by a reputable manufacturer or structural engineer. This should be the rule and not the exception. Another safety item to consider is having the front edge of the platform clearly marked so the performer can see where the edge is, whether it's with tape or with lights. So whether it's, strip lights, LEDs, or a rope light, just something to indicate that area. All staging is like a floor. It needs to be able to handle the weight load. So knowing this is very important and should always be known by all personnel. Now, talking about pit covers and pit nets, I do have to say, it's becoming a very common thing. I am a big fan. In the beginning, I don't know if when I saw them, I was, impressed by them. But, the first time I actually was involved in installing one, and, I tested out by literally, we all got to test it. We got to walk out on it. I was impressed, to be honest with you, knowing that if a performer were to fall off onto the pit, they would only slightly come down ever so far, not hitting any of the musicians underneath. Now, most people are always just thinking about if the performer falls. But, if you're in a Broadway show and you have a pit full of people, that one person falling could literally hit 5, 6, maybe 7 people by the way they fall, and they could be impaled. A lot could happen there. I mean, it's I don't want to be dark and scary on this, but, safety, we have to talk about safety because things happen. But there's a lot of companies that are making these amazing safety products for the pits now to keep the pit safe, as well as the performers. Now, recently, to talk about a product that worked but somebody tripped it the wrong way. I was actually on a cruise ship show, and I was out in the front of the theater, and I heard that the sound man went to jump up onto the stage. And somehow, when I went in there, he was in the bottom of the pit. He was okay. He was hurt, but the automatic safety net had come across and closed. So I was puzzled to figure out how, he fall through. I mean, no one seemed to know. So after going back and watching what happened, he had decided to go up to the stage at the same time someone was lowering the pit. Now, as the pit starts to lower, it has to come down to a certain point before the gate comes across. So it ends up, or that not the gate, but the safety net, because theirs was in a metal frame and the netting was built in. So as it came across, he had just missed the triggering point of jumping up, and as he fell, he missed the netting and fell through. So really, what everybody heard was the noise of him falling, and then everyone looked and saw him underneath, which puzzled everyone. But once again, that's a situation of bad timing. I mean, really, to say something like that. But overall, the safety part of it was engaged and working properly. But, just because of logistics of how the stage pit has to drop first before that can engage underneath, that person caught that 1% of error. Now, since then, they have made all types of new safeties, holds on cruise ships as well. So there's actually a flagman in front waiting till it engages and completes before they even do that. So I was actually involved in that. So there's a lot of interesting things that happen out there. And as I said, over 30 years, boy, you can really, really see a lot of things that have gone wrong. I mean, not knock on wood, nothing like that has happened to me directly. Usually I've always had to go there to assist and look at the problem and analyze it after. So once again, like I said earlier, the theater world is in a dark place, meaning that we are on average in a dark space all the time. And there's a lot of things we don't see quickly. So know your surroundings. So, speaking of pit covers and stage extensions, there's a building that probably over the last 20 years, I have done numerous shows in. And believe it or not once, not twice, but 3 times, I have seen the pit cover fail. I have seen people get hurt. I've seen national artists get hurt. I've seen local stagehands get hurt. I've even seen a fan get hurt. The pit cover is made of wood. It is not a professionally built product in any way. I've actually spoke to this venue numerous times, especially, after the 3rd time, which was recent. And they kind of just seem like, and their answer to me is, well, it's a pit cover and no one should walk on it. That's not a great answer. And that doesn't get you out of, anyone getting hurt. It doesn't help you against the lawsuit. It doesn't help you against anything. If anything, it just shows that you don't really want to fix a problem. I understand things are expensive and sometimes people can't afford it. If that's the case, you'd be better off with nothing there, because people think they're going to walk on something that is safe and it is not. There's no markers that say, please don't walk on this. There's no one there to instruct you the whole time saying, don't walk on this. So no one knows. So, let's just say the unknowing roadie comes into this venue and they walk in and they think it's okay. And they go to walk forward and look at the theater. And next thing you know, they fall in. And what I actually saw was the gentleman fall. The stage panel flipped forward and his leg got stuck between the orchestra pit wall and that. And I actually personally helped him out. And I really thought he needed full medical attention. But yet, he was okay, and the theater still seemed like they weren't worried about it. but you don't know. So when you walk into a building or a venue you're unfamiliar with, this is going to go back to something you're going to hear me say a lot today. Know your surroundings. If you don't know you're walking up there, maybe not go out full force and walk on it. Maybe check it out. Maybe walk around it. Maybe ask the house person if it's okay to walk out on this. You may find out that, it's temporarily there and we're going to secure it shortly. You may want to know that. In most venues, if it's in a pit that is automated on hydraulics, hopefully that person even calls and lets you know it's going to move. I was in a building recently where, we had some cases on there and somebody actually started moving that. Now, luckily no one got hurt, but, the more traveling I do in different shows, for every person who's doing a great job, there's somebody who's kind of not paying attention. So what we need to do is make sure that everyone's paying attention and you're paying attention the most, and really trying to make sure no one gets hurt. Everyone should go home at the end of the day. No one should be stuck, in an emergency room. So safety is very important. And people don't realize that in the theater world, it's a dark place overall, right? So things are in the dark. We don't see things. We can hit our heads on everything from a set piece to a line array that's not flown out all the way to, a piece of decking. Anything can occur. But overall, what we really want to do is make sure that we look out for everyone involved. So if everyone does their parts, everyone has a safe day, everyone goes home. Now let's talk about electrical. Make sure all items are properly tied in and metered to secure you have the right current and voltage going to your distros or directly to your equipment. Always double check it. It's well worth it. A lot of times people ask me, what are the OSHA standards for the theater? Well, believe it or not, OSHA does not have any industry-specific standards for the entertainment industry. Generally, the entertainment industry would be covered under the general industry standards, although there may be some construction jobs that will happen within the theater that would be required to follow the construction standards. If you're interested in becoming certified or licensed, look at the Entertainment Technician Certification Program, or ETCP. It's a great way to get certified. In some cities, counties, or states, you may be required to be licensed as well. So please look into that. So let's talk about cable protection and safety. The next thing to focus on are the cables that are required. As far as trip hazards go, it's best to not have any cables laying across the floor. But we know this isn't always realistic. If cables are needed, make sure that they're laying in areas with the least amount of traffic. It is also good to secure them to the floor using gaffer's tape or use ADA-compliant cable ramps. Some gaffer's tape literally have caution cable on them or just caution in general. Sometimes, I prefer both, depends how much cable we're running. If you're definitely going to have traffic, forklifts going over, definitely go with the cable ramps. Now, the proper cable that we should be using is important. All theatrical wiring should be grounded or double insulated to prevent fray or wear on the cable jackets leading to shock hazard. Cable, which is grounded, has 3 conductors instead of 2. Most cable used in theater is double insulated, typically with a black or orange outer jacket, and the internal conductors are separately insulated. An example of single insulated cable is zip cord or lamp cord, which consists of 2 single insulated wires running side by side. This type of cable is very vulnerable to wear or fraying of the outer jacket, which will expose conductors and present an electrical shock. Extension cords are used extensively backstage. Here are some guidelines for the safe use of cabling. Always use a 3-conductor cable that is 16 American wire gauge, or AWG, or smaller. Smaller AWG numbers indicate larger cable, which can handle larger amounts of current safely. Pulling too much current through a thin, light-duty extension cord can cause the insulation and jacketing of the jacket to overheat and potentially ignite. Never pull extension cords apart or out of outlets by pulling the cable itself. This can cause internal conductors or connections to part and potentially short circuit or connect each other, causing the extension cord to fail. Always disconnect extension cords by pulling on the conductor itself. Always inspect extension cords for fraying, splits, or bad plugs prior to use. Cable with exposed inner jacketing or exposed wire is an electrical shock hazard and should be removed from service. Clearly mark with tape and label and report to a supervisor. Never roll equipment over extension cords or any type of cable. The pressure exerted can cause internal connectors to part or can damage the jacketing, exposing the conductors and create an electrical shock hazard. Lift the cables up and roll equipment underneath, or unplug the cable and move it out of the way before rolling equipment past. Improperly routed extension cords can be a trip hazard. Route extension cords around high traffic areas to prevent tripping or falls. Do not pinch or stretch extension cords, as this can result in breakage of the conductors. When extension cords or other cabling run across high traffic areas, remember to make sure you still put them in the cable ramps we talked about earlier. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is proper stage lighting. Proper stage lighting will help everyone see better, which will make the environment safer. When using overhead lights, the stage wings where people are entering and exiting from should be adequately lit, and there should be enough lighting so that the front edge of the stage is easily visible. Also, be careful with strobe lights and other energetic lighting effects, as they can distract or impair a performer's vision, which can lead to missteps or falls. Now, obviously, during the show, we can have work lights on everywhere, but make sure that we have like what we call running lights that are either red or blue, just something so people can see where they're going off stage safely. So, with stage safety over the years, I have to say I've seen a lot of accidents. Going back to one of my first Broadway shows I ever worked, Evita, an older stagehand went to talk to another gentleman on the front apron. The orchestra pit was down about 25 feet. He went to kind of jump over to the side, caught his foot on a cable, and fell into the orchestra pit. Got hurt pretty bad. That was one of my first Broadway shows. So to see something like that really put into my mind about knowing where everything is around you, making sure you're paying attention when someone's calling something on a rail, if they're flying truss, if they're flying line sets, anything, even moving gear. I mean, I've seen people get hit by cases moving because they're not paying attention. So those are a lot of things that we really want to kind of go over today, including electrical shocks. People pushing cases over cables and the cable shorts out, or later on somebody grabs that cable and they get shocked. There's a lot of little things that someone early in the day does something by accident, and then it kind of builds up throughout the day. There's a lot of little things like that. So I'd like to cover those today. With that, let's always remember, we are an industry that's always changing. When I started, safety was kind of there, but it was not a thing everybody dealt with on the forefront. Now, things are like right there. I mean, we want to worry about it when I'm working and when I have my crew working, or I'm working for somebody else on their crew. My biggest thing is to make sure not that just I'm safe, but everyone's safe. And I really try to implement that. People bringing the proper tools, wearing the proper clothing. That's all part of it. Okay, now let's talk about some safety and rigging. Always use proper rigging techniques when lifting loads. Rigging training for your operators is very important. Rigging handbooks and proper equipment should be readily available. And if there's any doubt about the safety of your equipment or lift, stop the hoist, lower the load, and report the condition to your supervisor. Conduct all lifting operations so that no one will be injured in the event of equipment failure. Use proper hand signals and communication with all workers involved with the lift. Now let's talk about some safe rigging practices. First, when rigging, make sure the load hook and upper suspension form a straight line. The chain or body of the hoist should never come in contact with the load. Never tip load the hooks. Always use a slide or lifting device to rig around the loads, and use engineering lift points for attachment. Number 4, never work under suspended loads or lift loads over people. I see this all the time, and really, if you see it, you need to stop, you need to call it out, get people out of the way. Number 5, because I've seen this as well, never lift people with a hoist. When leaving the hoist unattended, land any attached loads safely. That way they're not suspended over other people who may not know the loads above them. And lastly, when the job is complete, place the hoist and hook in a location that will not interfere with the movement of people or materials or anything else going on with your show. When you are at the controls of a hoist, you have a lot of responsibility in your hands. By using safe rigging skills, good judgment, and common sense, you will help keep your coworkers safe. Earlier, we were talking about being certified by ETCP in the electrical world, but now let's talk about it in the rigging world. They actually offer 2 different types of certifications. One is for theatrical rigging and one is for arena rigging. Both of those are very easy to find out about by going to the ETCP website. That will tell you how to start the process to become certified. Now let's talk about fall safety. Once again, this goes back to what we said earlier. What are the OSHA standards for this? Well, OSHA doesn't have any industry-specific standards for the entertainment industry. Generally, the entertainment industry would be covered under general industry standards, although there may be some construction jobs that may be required to follow these construction standards. But pretty much in this aspect, we still have to follow all the situations with fall arresters, harnesses. If we go up ladders, make sure we're tying off. So make sure you find out what your guidelines are for your area. You will have to follow the OSHA standards, but your building can also implement additional rules of what they need. So please check with your building supervisors and safety officers, and they can lead you in the right direction for that. Some great ways of how we can prevent falls in the theater is know your working position, first of all. Make sure you know your surroundings, what's around you. Are you on scaffolding? Are you in a tight area? What's above you? What's below you? Always make sure that you know that. Use fixed length lines to prevent falls. Fall migration, using airbags, nets, reels. Lots of orchestra pits now have pit nets. So if somebody goes off, they land in the net. And it softens the blow. It protects the performers down below and the performer who fell in. Very important. I've seen this in use in lots of buildings, and I highly recommend them, especially for pits that are deeper than 6 feet. Here are a few important rules for stage safety. Adequate first aid supplies should be maintained. Adequate shop or space for safe operation of tools and equipment should be provided. There should be master switches for electrical power in the scene shop area and for the stage lighting equipment. Other safety precautions they have on stage are eye and face protection, head protection, foot protection, hand protection, respiratory protection, or any equipment used to protect against injury or illness. And out of all that equipment, I got to tell you, steel toe shoes or boots, I can't highly recommend them more than telling you just to have them. Just have them on. They make them any way possible with comfort and everything. But, we're rolling heavy cases sometimes. That'll crush your foot. Stage decks will crush your foot. There's so many things. It's worth it. I know they're not always comfortable. People don't want to wear them, but they're making them much more comfortable. You don't even know. Sometimes it's like a sneaker. I've even seen some cool guys that shoot ones that look like a sandal for if you really want to wear that. But I like them, up over the heel, your ankle, because, road cases come down and the corner of that case is right at the impact level of your ankle. And that can do some real damage. So, steel toe boots or shoes, highly recommended. So let's talk about props and other special effects. Props are other special effects like pyrotechnics, fog machines or hazers can add a lot to your overall performance. Basic stage props like scenery should be secured to the floor or properly secured to a batten for flying. Always make sure you double check everything so the risk of falling is never there, whether it's the prop falling over or falling from a batten. Pyrotechnics should be used with extreme care and should only be executed by an expert. Make sure you know your local fire codes before doing this as well. So, speaking of your local fire departments and fire codes, you are responsible for making sure your venue is safe. So you need to make sure all your soft goods are fireproofed. Do you have the certification papers for that? You should always have them handy. Sometimes some theaters, literally backstage right by the main curtain, there's a folder. They put them in there. Some people keep in their offices, whatever you need to do. But they should always be there, and they should always make sure that they are properly maintained so they're still fireproofed. You should make sure your building has what pyrotechnics are allowed. Some buildings have no pyrotechnics. We know of lots of incidences in theaters and nightclubs where a spark hits a piece of foam. Next thing you know, the building's on fire and people get hurt, people die. You don't want that. So some buildings don't allow it at all. Some buildings don't even allow hazers, smoke machines, nothing. So you really need to make sure, is that okay in the building you're going to? Is it okay in the building that you run? Maybe you want to see if you want to continue to have those policies in place. But, that's something you need to work with. Now, you also should, talk to your local fire department and see, what they require of you. You may need to have fire watch people, front of house and back of house, no matter what the production is, if you turn off any alarms that would turn off or activate any fire alarms. So these are things you want to know. Make sure all your fire extinguishers, fire hoses, anything like that are still clearly lit with ghost lights at least so people know where they are. Make sure your staff and crew know where they are. And it's worth taking a second to look around it. Fog machines and hazers can cause the stage to have a slippery surface and cause damage to the stage. Having collection pans under these machines will greatly reduce this, making the performance space and stage area much safer. Whatever the application is, or whether you're using a portable or permanent stage, take the steps outlined in this learning series, and it will ensure safety for everyone involved. Let's make sure your event is safe for everyone. I'm Bill Di Paolo, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon. I would like to thank Gene Lass from Warship Facilities for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. Let's keep it safe out there, everyone.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you for watching our Worship Facility webinar. If you have any questions, as always, you can send them to me at glass@worshipfacility.com, and we'll give you some answers. Thanks again, Bill Di Paolo, and thank you for watching this webinar.